All right. Very special, brief edition of Fact Check this podcast today. Not really a podcast per se, so much as just a impromptu live stream. We got fact checked on a article, not even an article, on a picture, a meme in the Peddling Fiction Facebook group meme stream, as we often do. And naturally, I like to take a look at the fact checkers and see what they have to say about certain things. And this one was the usual crock. So I figured, why not pull up the fact check, have a look at it, and talk about what it is they're saying in this fact check. So we'll start out with the meme itself, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So the meme that got fact checked says they'll spend trillions on bills that they haven't read, but they want the details on how you spend $600. And the fact check on this says that this is false and misleading because they don't actually want the details on how you're spending the $600. Yes, very false, very misleading. They don't want the details. They just want to make sure that they tax you for that $600. So that takes us to the fact check itself, and we're going to just kind of read our way through this and see what they've got to say and see how they've mischaracterized the mischaracterization. Republicans mischaracterize proposed financial reporting requirements. To help detect unreported income and narrow the gap between federal taxes collected and owed, the Biden administration has proposed expanding annual reporting requirements for banks and other financial institutions to include the total amounts of money flowing in and out of all businesses and personal accounts worth at least $600. We're simply asking to add two boxes to the IRS 1099 INT form. One that would be the aggregate inflows into the account over the course of the year, and the second would be the aggregate outflows from the account. So it's not detailed information, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said in a June 16th Senate testimony on Joe Biden's 2022 budget. But the proposal, which is being considered by congressional Democrats as a way to offset some of the cost of Biden's Build Back Better agenda, hold the fuck up and pump the brakes on this one. Now, weren't we told that Build Back Better was not going to cost us anything? And yet, here they are adding in extra stuff to help offset the cost of Build Back Better. Interesting how that works. Has been mischaracterized by several Republican critics who have falsely claimed or suggested that it would require the details of individual transactions or purchases to be reported to the IRS. And I'm not going to go through the different mischaracterizations as they put them, the quotes of people who are talking about what's going to be in this. We're going to work our way down to the proposal itself. So in May, the Treasury Department published a document outlining several potential tax reforms that it said would raise revenue, improve tax administration, and make the tax system more equitable and efficient. Now, what they mean by more equitable and efficient is make sure that those of you who can't afford like thousands of dollars for a professional accountant to find every single potential legal loophole to get you out of paying taxes, that means they're going to close any loophole on you and make sure that you pay everything that you could possibly owe. So one item on the list aims to improve tax compliance by businesses and wealthy individuals. It states, this is the Treasury Department explanation of fiscal year 2022 revenue proposals from May 2021. This proposal would create a comprehensive financial account information reporting regime. Financial institutions would report data on financial accounts in an information return. The annual return will report gross inflows and outflows with a breakdown for physical cash, transactions with a foreign account, and transfers to and from another account with the same owner. This requirement would apply to all businesses and personal accounts from financial institutions, including bank, loan, and investment accounts, with the exception of accounts below a low de minimis gross flow threshold of $600 or fair market value of $600. So now they're saying that, so the fact checker, remember, The fact checker says that this is mischaracterization, that they don't actually want the details on how you're spending your $600. And yet, when we look at the wording of it, it would report data with an informational return on any inflow and outflow breakdowns of physical cash and transactions and transfers. So they're looking at everything. They say they don't want the details. And yet, in the wording of the proposal itself, it very specifically and clearly says that they're going to get the details from your financial institution. The Treasury Department says the gap between taxes that are due and taxes that are paid is estimated to be $600 billion annually. $600 billion is what they say isn't being paid. Now, how much of a difference would that make, do you think? Let's just do a quick search. U.S. government spending daily. Let's see how much money they spend per day. How far would that 600 billion take us? I wonder. If they're spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 trillion, let's just do some quick math on this. What say we? Roughly 5 trillion. That's a million. It's a billion. That's a trillion. They're spending 13 billion per day. So 600 divided by 13. We can run the country for a month and a half by making up for that extra 600 billion that they say American taxpayers aren't paying. Month and a half. They spend, according to, as Jeff says, they spend the equivalent of 74 Twitters monthly. Yeah. Elon was going to solve world hunger with 44 billion, but the U.S. government can't do that with 5 trillion. Yeah. So let's continue with the fact checker just a little bit further. Wyoming's people. So this is an exchange with Janet Yellen and some people, members of Congress. Wyoming's people will literally find alternatives to traditional banks just to thwart the IRS access to their personal information. Not because they're trying to hide anything, but because they're not willing to share everything. My question is, are you aware of how unnecessary this regulatory burden is? Do you distrust the American people so much that you need to know when they buy a couch or a cow? And in response, Yellen said that the senator apparently misunderstood what had been proposed. Senator Loomis, I really disagree with this assessment that you have, and I think you misunderstand the proposal. Banks already report directly to the IRS the interest that they pay on accounts when it exceeds $10. And this is not a proposal to provide detailed transaction level data by banks to the IRS. It is proposed to add 2 additional pieces of easily ascertained information to the 1099 that the banks already file, namely the aggregate inflows into the account during the year and aggregate outflows, except that the proposal itself says transactions, transfers, they're tracking everything. And here's the thing, like they act like this is to recoup 600 billion in missed IRS revenue. Normal Americans are not ducking 600 billion worth of tax revenue, right? Like that doesn't even make sense. Let's just do some let's do some math here. So 600 billion divided by 330 million. So by that, every single individual in the country is ducking out on about $2,000 worth of taxes every year. That's assuming every individual paid taxes, except that of that 330 million U.S. citizens, roughly half of them aren't old enough to pay taxes. They're children, right? So every tax-paying citizen is ducking out on $4,000 of taxes, except that half of the U.S. citizens don't pay taxes. That's a fun. We already have like the most tiered system on the planet as far as our tax structure goes. Like they talk about how billionaires don't pay their fair share or whatever. In our current system, billionaires pay a significantly greater share than anybody else on the board every year. This is far different from any other tax structure across the planet. Half of the eligible taxpayers pay zero, not a single fucking cent. So now what you're telling me is that the other half are effectively ducking out on in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $10,000 per year. You're telling me that I am ducking paying $8,000 to $10,000 worth of taxes every year? I'm not seeing that reflected in my check, so I would like to know how I can go about actually doing that. Now, see, the whole purpose of this $600 thing is that it goes after small businesses. The whole purpose of this is to destroy the small business, because how many major corporations are doing business on Cash App, Venmo, PayPal for, transactions that are less than thousands upon thousands of dollars at a time? No, this specifically targets small businesses. As if COVID didn't prove enough that the U.S. government and the IRS absolutely hate small businesses and we're trying to put them completely out of business. This just reinforces it and is an attempt to add that nail to the coffin. Now, there is good news in all of this, and this is how I'm going to kind of wrap up before I kind of get out of here. I did not intend to spend a whole lot of time on this. Just wanted to kind of take a quick dive through it. There is good news on this. This has been updated on October 20th. On October 19th, the Senate Democrats outlined a revised proposal which has the support of the Biden administration that would raise the reporting threshold to $10,000 in annual deposits or withdrawals. So instead of looking at any transaction of $600 or more, it takes it up to annual movement of $10,000. That's still not a very high threshold, especially for a small business. Like they're still putting a lot of eyeballs on businesses that already have way too many eyeballs on them as it is. Like that's the thing about a small business is like they already have to go through so much regulation, jump through so many hoops, fill out so much paperwork. Like there's so many obstacles and barriers to actually becoming a business to begin with. And then adding all of this tax burden and all of this extra reporting and everything that's going to be going on to try to make sure that, and the even crazier thing about it is if you don't pay everything that they say that you're supposed to pay, then they can close your business down and take you to jail. So, crock of shit. As usual, the fact checkers are also completely full. So, here we have it. Heck, get ready. I mean, as Senator Loomis from Wyoming said, like, it's time to be finding ways to get around using these banking structures, finding alternatives to traditional banks in order to thwart IRS access to your personal information. If they're going to get it, make them fuckers earn it. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Be sure to head over to YouTube and all of your podcatchers to check out today's episode of the show. And be sure to tune in next week. I've got another fact check article that we're doing on Monday and some fun stuff over the next couple weeks. I highly recommend checking out. It'll be the week of the last week of December, the 26th and the 28th. The two episodes that come out then are very important, very good stuff. You definitely need to check those out. They will be covering the MAID that's going on in Canada and also taking a look at evidence-based medicine and deconstructing the way that that's kind of done. So I highly recommend checking those out. But there's 2 weeks between now and then, and I've got some good episodes coming out then as well. So stay tuned. Lots of fun stuff. There will be a Christmas live stream on the evening of December 23rd. I'm going to have random guests pop in and out. We're going to drink and shoot the shit and just have some fun. No particular show topics for that one. Just going to enjoy chatting with each other. So December 23rd, probably around 8 p.m. Eastern. Tune in for that. If anybody wants in on that, shoot me a message. I'll send you a link. That's all I got for today. Have a good one, everybody. Later.